What's up guys, welcome back to CP Hyperverse for another breakdown of the House of the Dragon TV series. Through the entire video, I will be talking about Easter eggs and big characters and full explanation about the second episode. By the way, thank you for clicking the video and stay tuned for breakdowns of this series every week. This episode starts with the focus of some victims of the Kragas the Crab Feeder and his crab feeding victims. As I said it in the episode 1 review, Crab Feeder is going to be a very big character in this series. We can see he is a monster that kills people and who is a nightmare in the Stepstones area. That area is very important because it is a main passage route for traders and Crab Feeder disrupts several routes to the realm by killing the traders. In the first episode, Lord Corlys brings up about the Crab Feeder in the Small Council, but the Small Council didn't pay much attention about it. As in the books, Crab Feeder not only fed his victims to the crabs, he also drowned them slowly when the tide comes in. We can see his brutality on this episode. Lord Corlys brings the news about the Crab Feeder again, but King Viserys thought Crab Feeder is doing good because he disrupts the pirate activity in the Stepstones area. Because of that, we can see later in this episode Lord Corlys turning back on King Viserys and going for Prince Daemon for ask help, and together they very much set out to take the Crab Feeder down. As in the Game of Thrones, Arya Stark took the role of the cupbearer with Tywin to listen the biggest problem between the lords. As in this series, we can see Rhaenyra is also getting the same opportunity. As the scene starts with the announcement of the death of Sir Ryan of Kingsguard and his death left the position. And King Viserys thinks Rhaenyra should choose the next Kingsguard member, and we can see she chooses the knights in the same location where in the Game of Thrones. Rhaenyra chooses Sir Criston Cole because he had real combat experience. Sir Criston Cole fought in the Dornish Marches and that was a location at South Westeros. As in the books, this swampland saw many great battles. Corlys comes and talks how he wants to take down the Stepstones and kill the Crab Feeder. But the council was worrying this could be going to war. Rhaenyra suggests sending dragon riders to show fear to the enemies and they are not weak. And later on, she ends up in the Dragonstone. The issue with Viserys was he was trying hard to follow footsteps of King Jaehaerys who ruled peace so many years, but this system puts up the kingdom in danger and it allowed so many other enemies to attack the kingdom. Once again, we can see Alicent and Viserys going through the models of the city. We can see the plan of the king's son Otto works perfectly into play because he wanted his family to have a claim to the Iron Throne. And at the end, Viserys chose to marry Alicent as his second wife. According to the books, there was a character named Mushroom who's basically a gossip, and he said that Alicent and Viserys were sleeping together while Queen Aemma was still alive. Viserys is mentioning about a black red dragon after figure of it breaks, and we saw the statue of this dragon in the square last week. And this was the same place that Ned Stark got beheaded in the Game of Thrones. The dragon name was Balerion and Viserys was its last rider, and this was the skull that he was visiting last episode with Rhaenyra. In the next scene, we can see Alicent and Rhaenyra is in the Sept, which was more like a cathedral, and people come here to light up candles to the dead people, and this was the place Cersei bombed in the Game of Thrones. We can see why Rhaenyra feels betrayed, and she says,
"It's only been half a year since my mother died, and already they tried to marry my father off and replace me as heir."
Rhaenyra tells about how insecure she was becoming, while Alicent's plans was working with the king. We can see these two have a lot in common because both lost their mothers. We can see the most creepiest scene in the show as Valerians trying to put their teenage daughter forward to be married to Viserys, and we can see clearly King is not going to do that. Even though it's not even 6 months since Queen Aemma died, the inner circle saw that no male heir has a vulnerability, and even Rhaenyra in a position of a power. Many wanted to stick with the male tradition, and eventually this ended up splitting the houses. and we can see a heated conversation between Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra about the position about the next heir. As in the next scene, we can see the cartoon of the king, and as I can see, it's almost close to the grayscale. But I cannot be so sure about this. But we can see clearly king's health is falling down and heir is very important. As in the Game of Thrones, Daenerys believed Targaryens couldn't get sick because the ability to ride dragons and they views them as being gods. And also in this series, we can see Viserys is also not believing he also cannot get sick. We can see Alicent is bringing up the dragon statue that broke earlier, and we can see the relationship between Alicent and Viserys is building up. The scene was cut by Otto, called the Council, because Daemon has stolen a dragon egg to give to his baby, and that was the egg was due to give the baby Balon. Daemon was bailed on everything and gone to Dragonstone and invites Viserys to his wedding, which he was going to marry Mysera, who worked in a brothel. And Daemon said she is pregnant, but which she really not. Viserys is not allowing this marriage and he wants Daemon to return to his wife Lady Rhea. Viserys wants to go to Dragonstone. Instead, Hand of the King Otto goes. Dragonstone is a very mysterious place along with long winding staircases, as we can see in the Game of Thrones and in the House of the Dragon. The conversation between Daemon and Otto started to get heated, and we get more tension when Criston drops this line.
Perhaps my prince recalls when I knocked him off his horse.
As in the last week episode, Daemon got humiliated by losing to Criston. After that, all the two armies draws their sword and Caraxes, Daemon's dragon, enters the scene. Suddenly, we can see Rhaenyra and Syrax approaches the scene like a ghost through the clouds. Rhaenyra is wearing the dark grey cloak like Daenerys in Game of Thrones. Rhaenyra wants the dragon egg back and she challenged Daemon to strike her down. Eventually, Daemon throws the eggs to Rhaenyra and she places in a scorching hot cauldron. Viserys calls to Rhaenyra that she disobeyed him and went to Dragonstone. While that, he breaks the news that he is going to marry again for the crown's sake. And Rhaenyra understood he has to do what he has to do. And in the small council, Viserys breaks the news that he is going to marry Alicent. Corlys got very angry about the decision that Viserys made, and because of that, he turned back to Daemon, and this was also a shock to Rhaenyra, and the scene ends with she is also leaving the small council. Corlys tells to Daemon how his family struggled with the ocean through the past years and why stopping crab feeder is so much important. Corlys calls Daemon to step up where his brother failed to do. This week's episode sets up with some huge interesting facts to the later episode, and hoping to break down every episode in this series in every week. If you love the video, please subscribe and like, and let me know what you thought about the video and this series in the comment section.